Hello and welcome to Law and Order SVU here on FANVERSATION. What are all these hand movements?
I don't know, we're just like really talking with our hands, doing an interpretive dance.
I see that. I am Yael Tygiel. Our dancer today is Taylor Gates.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. This is season 3, episode 23, Silence, also known as the Eric Stoltz episode. Before we jump into it, if you yourself are in a situation where you need help, please reach out to RAINN. Their number is 1-800-656-4673. 1-800-656-4673. Taylor, what does that spell?
It spells hope, everybody.
It does. 4673 spells hope. Also, if this is your first time joining us, what an old episode to join. How odd. Please consider this your content warning. I guarantee I'll say something offensive, especially if you're religious.
Yeah, to be fair, they said many offensive things too, so we're just following their lead, but hopefully we'll correct some of the things that they like to say in season 3. You can tell it's an old episode, let's just put it that way.
Sure.
Horrified. All
right.
The discussions.
Before we get to that, here is the quick up for this episode. A murder at a church leads Benson and Stabler to an alleged cover-up involving sexual abuse by a priest. Taylor.
Yep.
Did you remember this episode?
No, I did not. Which honestly kind of made it fun to watch because it's like, oh, like there's so many surprises. I really don't know where this is going. Here's the thing. My overall thoughts on this episode. It's a good episode. Like, it's very interesting. I would say it's well written. It just really shows with the times, especially when it comes to, like, trans people.
Oh, yes.
Like, and to be fair, I mean, back then, I mean, this was like 20 years ago, probably? Even more than that. Like, it's not like it was malicious, I don't think. It's just, like, so dated and so cringe now to watch. But maybe back then it wasn't. Maybe back then it was like, okay, they're actually kind of trying to be progressive and whatever. But it, like, we really surpassed that. And I was like, ouch. Like, this is physically sort of painful to have to listen to them, like, talk like this.
So I agree with you so much. First, the pronouns were, like, really pissing me off this whole time. That said, this episode, 2002, I would say that the use of terms in that time of transsexual versus transvestite were, I believe, accurate for the time period.
Yeah.
This is prior to people using the term transgender, and the differentials in those two other terms. Times have changed. Terminology has changed. We have adapted. We have learned new vocabulary. So, as challenging as it was to listen to, because it fucking was.
Yeah.
I think it was correct. Maybe not progressive, because as we know, Stabler as a character was never, it took him many, many years to get to a point where he understood trans people. So it was definitely of the time. I will say this episode, I was like, oh, is this the whole time? I was like, this isn't the one where the priests confess to each other. No, this isn't the one where like over and over, I kept being like, no, this isn't that one. And then it was that one.
I have to say, I find that really fascinating because as someone who did go to Catholic school, I always found like the fact, like the seal of confession so interesting. I'm like, what if a priest did hear something that could help solve a crime? And it's just like, and I always would like think about that when I was at school and ask the priest and stuff, and they're like, it doesn't matter. And I'm just like, that's nuts though. Like, especially if the person's not sorry and it's just like using it to taunt almost. And so this episode, like, really, I don't know, scratched the itch of like me being really interested in that, because it is a really interesting conversation about how freedom of religion comes into play and all of that. And I'm kind of surprised we didn't do a little bit more with that. I guess that would have probably been like the court side, which we didn't really see. But it's a really interesting concept, and I think they executed it in a really interesting way in this one.
I agree with you. I think the idea that the priests like figured out that they could confess to each other and keep doing what they were doing is like a horrific, mind-blowing concept. This case is full of twists and turns because I couldn't remember if this was the episode I thought that it was, which it was. It was the whole time. It was the episode.
It starts one place and it goes a lot of directions. But that's the way that I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Sometimes it's like, what the hell are we doing? But this one I'm like, okay, it's like a logical next step, which I appreciated. Like it was a very breadcrumb,
Yes, I mean it starts. I think there's something that we complain a lot about in newer episodes is when the detectives look at a crime scene and are like, here's a theory, and then they just go with that theory, even though it's like there's clearly another very obvious theory they could have gone with. And this episode specifically with the body at the beginning, they were like, here are 3 possibilities of what happened, and they followed those possibilities. And I was like, look at that detective work.
We love to see it.
Doreen in the chat says, is this the one with Eric Stoltz? It is. This is the Eric Stoltz episode. Also live in our chat are Riston. Hello, Riston. Welcome. And Alexa, who suggested our theme that we're currently going with.
I'll get pegged.
Pegtober.
Hashtag get pegged. You can say Pegtober, but then you have to say hashtag get pegged.
Again, that's not what that means.
Yes, it is. For the purposes of this conversation, yes, it is.
While I wholly support getting pegged, it's not what this is.
It is now.
It's funny because the reason we did this episode specifically is because it is the introduction of Sister Peg. But she's in one scene.
She is, but she made it count. She's a legend.
She did. Because we meet her, we understand who she is and what she's doing, and we see her connection to the church itself. Yeah. Right? Like, we find her because Father Michael sends us to her, and then she's like, oh, Father Michael's great, and here's why. Mm-hmm. So I really love the connectivity.
Yeah, agree.
I want to talk about the first suspect, Gus.
Yep.
Who wore no condom but did wear gloves.
Kind of obsessed with the logic there, frankly.
I honestly loved him.
Yeah, he's so funny.
What a creep.
Yeah.
I want to give shout out to this actor. The actor's name is so stupid. Chris Ivers. And I believe he is a repeat offender and has been multiple characters. So in season 3, he was in this episode as Gus Yoder. Season 8, he was in Recall as Barry Cole. Season 11, he was Lawrence Jasinski in Perverted. And season 18, in No Surrender, he was Gary Cook. So we've seen this guy.
Has he ever played not a creepy guy? Is my question.
No.
That poor guy is typecast. He's probably so nice in real life too, because every time you get someone who's so can play so sinister, they're the sweetest person IRL. I bet this guy's so nice, but he just has the look, the everything. He can really pull it off.
Look, I think that as an actor, not that I am one, but as actors, I think that when they know that they can look like a creep.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I can play a creep.
Get your bag. You were on 4 episodes of SVU that is one of the shows that probably get hella residuals. This guy is doing great for himself, probably, as he should. Lean into it. Why not? Also, that's fun to play someone so creepy a little bit.
I mean, this this character was super twitchy, and I liked that.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's a fun character.
Yeah.
Let's give some shout outs. This episode is written by Patrick Harbinson and directed by Steve Schill. As we know, Father Michael is Eric Stoltz. So I'm sure anyone who's ever loved a Law and Order, there's the joke about the most famous person is the person who did it.
Sure. Yep.
Eric Stoltz was obviously the famous guest star of this episode, and I love the way that it played out, that he wasn't the one who did it.
Yeah.
Especially because the case, Jamie, the murdered girl at the beginning, her murder was an accident.
Yep. Had almost nothing to do with the rest of everything, which is kind of actually crazy too, because I don't know, it's like kind of a really brilliant red herring, because when you have like a trans person, like clearly like the church is not known for being very friendly to trans people. So when you combine those two things, you're like, oh, it's obviously really religiously motivated for all this thing. And the fact that it really wasn't is actually really kind of smart. And I don't know, that's kind of inspired. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, her murder was that she startled Bobby while he's trying to set the church on fire.
Yeah. And that's just wild that's how that played out, because you have such, I mean, maybe, I don't know what it was like to watch this in 2002, obviously, but today you're like, oh, obviously there's so much like vitriol coming from that group to that group. It was just not at all, like they did not care. It was just the fact that we didn't.
Doreen says they didn't go the obvious route. Yeah. Riston says, I always tell my husband that too. He's a name, he did it.
Yep.
Yeah. And this time, not. That's what's fun, is the whole thing comes down, right? That at the end, Father Michael was willing to like take the fall because he felt ashamed and guilty for not protecting these kids. Here are the three things I remember from this episode, and never remember it's the same episode. One is that the church, that the priests are confessing to each other, and that's the like big loophole. Two is the therapy session tape, which we'll get to in a second. And three is the watching porn in color versus black and white.
Yeah, that's a wild detail.
All three of these facts I remember are church episodes with church abusing boys, and I never remember that it's all the same episode with Eric Stoltz.
Yeah, when you think, like, that's a lot that they kind of like really popped off with this episode at the end of the day.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because as soon as it ended, I went, wow, what a dark, heavy fucking episode. And I was like, why did I suggest we do this one?
Really well written. I mean, again, like, just besides the fact, we have to ignore the fact that, like, problematic, but really smartly written and constructed, and the performances were really good. It's a lot of really interesting, little specifics that's like, whoa. They really, like, thought all of this out.
Thank you, Doreen says there's so many episodes of Churches Yelled. No wonder you got confused. Thank you for defending me. Let's talk about the therapy session tapes, because there's a moment where we're wondering if this is a confession or a statement of intent, and we learn a little bit more about aversion therapy and behavior modification, and I think that's fascinating. If I understand correctly, it is similar to people who like are smokers trying to quit, and they have a rubber band and they snap it while they're thinking about smoking, so that they associate the concept of smoking with pain.
Honestly, my mind went to a different, darker place, which is conversion therapy. Every time you've seen that in movie and in real life, but like I've seen it in movies with like The Way Erased, They Slash That, like so many. It's like they show images and like, put pain when it should be pleasure, like, and try to do that. So I thought that was interesting too, how it kind of ties to like the conversion therapy part of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it is the same thing, right? Because they were trying to
purposes,
yeah. Fascinatingly horrific.
Yeah.
This episode has a lot of weird shit. Dr. Wong in this episode, I feel like, did some great Dr. Wong stuff.
Yes. God, I like always forget how much I miss him until I watch an episode with him in it. And I'm like, he's the fucking glue that holds the shit together at the end of the day. Like, he's the smartest person in the room by so much every time in every single way.
100%. His explanation as to how Jamie's death, like, couldn't have been the ritual part of it couldn't have been Gus because there's no way he would have touched that body.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And the fact he was Latin. Hello. Crazy. Out of left field. Love it. I believe it, though, is the thing. I'm like, if anyone's just going to know Latin, it's probably Dr. Wong.
I mean, Stabler was close. He was like, I kind of know what this is.
No, he was like, I only know, and then he names like the classical Latin words. The priest is like, oh, well, it means this. The priest was wrong.
The priest lied.
Wrong. Well, yes.
The priest was not wrong. He lied.
And then, I love how I knew that too. I was like, if no one's fact checking this shit, like he's lying his ass off. Like, you can't trust that. Go to the dictionary. Like, go, I don't know, look, make sure it's what he's saying, because you can't just take his word for it.
In the moment, they didn't have smartphones. It was 2002.
I don't care.
But also,
search.
Stabler is going to trust the priest.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing, is every time we have a church episode with Stabler, it's like, hey, Stabler, your faith obviously is the most important thing here.
Yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah.
As our resident Catholic.
Yeah. Sure.
How accurate was any part of this?
Pretty accurate. Although the thing that tripped me up, and maybe this is either true in different parts of the country, like I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Indiana, or it's like a little bit outdated because this was obviously 2002. But the fact that he calls the bishop Your Grace is so interesting. I've never heard of that before. It's just, hey, bishop, whatever. Like, Your Grace, I don't know that that's a title that's like still frequently used, but I had never encountered that in my like real Catholic life, which I found really interesting. It's like father. You just say father, whatever, even if it's the bishop or bishop, whatever. Your Grace is like, I was like, what are you talking about? So I thought that was very interesting.
What is the hierarchy of church of priests?
Okay, so levels? Pope obviously is at the top.
Sure.
Cardinals, I believe, which is like a whole diocese. If I'm getting this wrong, I'm sorry.
What is a diocese?
A diocese is like a region network of churches, I guess. I believe, again, if someone is like, someone's like, that's not true. I haven't been to Catholic school in a minute. Okay, I graduated a while ago.
Wait, Doreen says there's a Monsignor.
I don't know that one. I know.
I've heard it. That's how I know to pronounce that.
Bishop, priest, deacon is below priest.
What is a deacon?
A deacon, it's not that they're studying to be priest, I don't think. That's what's the word for that? Ooh, I forget what the word for that is. But deacon is like almost a pastor in a way. They're not like a full priest, but they can like do some priestly stuff. So yeah, now I'm gonna research this after and be like, because I just like pulling that out of my ass. But I'm like pretty. You're
going from memory. Alexa says that a deacon is a layperson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
To anyone in the chat who knows this stuff, listen, I'm your resident Jew. I got nothing.
Yeah, I have some, but we've blocked some things out because religious trauma, obviously, as
sure.
one does. And I haven't been tested on this in a second. So.
You could have also made everything up, and I
did it.
Like, oh, okay.
I tried not to, at least. Let me just clarify.
I know, but you could have, and I would have 100% believed you.
If you guys need the 7 deadly sins, like I got that shit down on lock. Probably less in the anger, sloth, covetous, gluttony. If you guys need a 10 commandment, like I can do that kind of thing.
Girl, who can't do the 10 commandments?
What?
I said, who can't do the 10 commandments?
Well,
that came from my world.
We can, true. You're right. We stole that from you. We did. Took it right out from you. Isn't Yom Kippur soon?
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to learn too.
Yeah.
And that is a time for forgiveness, question mark?
It is the Day of Atonement.
Okay.
And wow, people in the chat are all talking about priesty stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, it is the Day of Atonement.
Okay.
But don't worry about it.
Okay. This is unfortunately separation of church and state, but very Christian country for the most part. And yeah. I'm trying to learn other things.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Doreen in the chat says, I called everyone father except for Monsignor, the pastor of the church. Okay.
Maybe that's a different, were you Roman Catholic, Doreen? Because I didn't.
And Alexa says you're not lying.
Okay, thank God, because I was like, oh no, I should have studied. But yeah.
I'm sorry I asked questions.
No, I'm glad that you did. I need to be sharpened on my feet because this is my brand. The fact that I was a Catholic school person is part of my brand. Roman Catholic, that's so interesting. Maybe it was just a different. I mean, listen, every diocese, every church will have small little differences and things. So maybe it's not. That's so interesting though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the religious tangent, but there you go.
It's on brand for this episode.
It is. You're right. To
be fair, if it wasn't, there's no fucking way we would have brought that shit up in our show.
Yeah, but I will say, they did a pretty decent job overall with the Catholicism representation.
Mm. I will also say they did a pretty decent job with the discomfort of the topic.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times, with 24 seasons, sometimes I feel like I'm desensitized to the story, to the crime when you hear from the victim explaining things. So to see the performance, specifically Bobby's performance when he described what happened to him, and then the video of Father Michael and his urges, those were both uncomfortable and horrific to watch.
Yeah. I'm also curious. So obviously, abuse in the church is something that's kind of a given these days, I guess you would say. Unfortunately, everybody knows that it happens. But I know that wasn't always the case. Spotlight was the thing that, the movie that shed the light on, I guess, what sort of started to expose that, if that makes sense. So in 2002, yeah, I don't know if you know, but was this a very taboo, out of left thing to be portraying and discussing, or was there news stories about? I mean, there's always small news stories, but was it a very large conversation back then?
Yeah. So So I remember at the time of this episode that there were cases and stories coming out. Okay. But I think you're right. When you look back, Spotlight, the movie, looked back at, I believe, I'm trying to find out what time period it was looking at.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either.
But so I think the case that Spotlight, the movie, was reflecting on was the launch or instigator,
watershed, sort of.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's just
moment that brought up, and so it was pre this. But I think what's interesting about this specifically is that they talk about, as you said, in my mind, abuses in the Catholic Church, or in most churches, I would say most religious organizations, is prevalent. But in this episode, they talk about how we think of it as prevalent, but it's only a small percentage. which I found also an interesting choice to bring up because it does feel prevalent. Doreen in the chat says the stories happened in the 70s and 80s, but accusations came out in the 90s. Thank you. Also, Riston comes in with the as an agnostic who grew up atheist, I'm lost. Riston, as an atheist Jew, also lost. So needed this education.
Listen, Catholic school did a lot of things to me. However, it did help in helping to deconstruct this episode for everybody, and it helps me on a lot of Jeopardy categories.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would say that my Catholic knowledge is SVU based.
That's honestly like fair. Like we've just explained, they did an okay job. So
yeah.
Yeah.
There was something else I wanted to point out in this episode that I found so fun. And it's a very, very small moment, but you may have noticed a woman in this episode, and that woman was Ruth Linden, who later becomes Judge Ruth Linden. In fact, she is played by Jane Howdy Shell. I'm so sorry if I'm messing up her name. She is the judge who gets Benson Noah. And I was like, wow, that woman looks just like her. I wonder if it's the same lady. And it
That's
is.
wild. I love that consistency.
Yeah.
It's not known for that, let's be clear.
Look, there have been quite a few characters that we've seen their career move on. For example, Judith Light's character, who is bureau chief and then becomes judge. Like, we've seen that.
The best, by the way. Donnelly,
yes.
Everything cool.
I wish there was more Donnelly.
Dude, she's a legend.
I would love to see her in season 25.
Me too.
But this episode, in addition to having that, also again introduced Sister Peg, gave us Warner. Warner was great in this episode.
Yeah, it's so funny because whenever I watch her like have to say those insane words, I'm like, that poor actress. It's probably like so at the table where you just be like, the fuck is this? Like, someone tell me. But she's so good. She convinces me every time.
I started writing and I was like, fuck it.
No, we can't. Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts before we move to best lines?
I don't think so. I just thought it was really a solid ep.
I mean, the only other thing that I wanted to touch on was the watching porn in color versus black and white. Because it, to me, reminds me, like, it was so of the time that was such a big deal that this kid was like, what are you talking about? That I thought about, I was like, what would that be in the modern day? And I have heard that kids today will look at an old-timey landline phone, not a cell phone, but a like home phone, and see the pound button and call it a hashtag.
That's funny.
And that makes me laugh because somebody, I don't remember what it was, where some kid was like, why did this old phone, like, you guys have been using hashtags forever? No.
Oh, that's funny. I love that.
Yeah. What is Alexa in the chat says, free condoms, God bless you, on Sister Peg's van.
That's so true though. That is activism. That's what the church should be doing.
Yeah.
Unironically, you know?
Absolutely. All right. Would you like to start with lines or should I? Because I have quite a few.
You can start. I'll let you.
Okay. I'm going to start with my favorite line of this episode.
Ready. Yep.
I'm a Jew. Is that better or worse?
Yeah. Classic.
Okay. This one caught me off guard because I didn't see it coming. It's a Kragan line, which is unexpected. It is. He tightens his sphincter anymore. He's going to implode.
Yep.
What the fuck? Kragan.
No, sir, please.
Amazing. All right. He's a 6-year-old boy who caught him trying to burn down a church. I could try that in my sleep. Or he killed a 16-year-old boy who got him trying to burn down a church. I could try that in my sleep. Great line. Feeding the homeless is hardly a crime no matter what he's wearing. And you're asking a child to judge pornography?
Yeah.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Because fair question.
Yeah.
Fair question.
Really? Whoa, what are we doing here, guys?
All right, Taylor, what are your lines?
He laid out the Vic like some little princess. I just felt like that was a weird choice of words that I had to bring up. He didn't practice safe rape is like so bad, but also like a little bit silly. So he's really clean and really dirty. I think my favorite line is, "Why did you leave hundreds of little Yoders inside a doctor toy?" So good. You got Bobby looking like a Fruit Loop. I just like love Fruit Loop. Like, just it's so many funny little term. Elliot saying "go to hell" to a priest, I found really amusing.
Yes.
And the last two are like honestly good lines, like not funny ones. Like I thought that was very powerful writing. He's like, "What about my vows? What about the children?" Ooh, so good. And finally, "You're risking your soul. I believe I'm saving it." So that's really some good writing right there. I love those. Like, ooh.
That was the moment where I was like, "Fuck, what a dark episode."
It is, but it's so good because it's like, damn, like. I think I'm on obviously the side of like, yeah, you're throwing away whatever, but throwing away, your ability to be in the church, but like you're doing the right thing, but it's just it's wild. But honestly, I don't know, not to get like so deep into religion, but I just definitely think that whatever you believe in, like, cares so much more about how you treat people and saving people than like whether you can be in the church, technically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think about this a lot in like, for those who don't know, there are 3 instances of career that you are allowed to keep people's secrets, right? It's lawyer, doctor, and clergy member.
Yeah.
And every time there's a situation like this, and I'm like, there's a reason to reveal these secrets, to go against the rules and share. And there's he can no longer probably be a Catholic priest, but I guarantee a different sect of Christianity would welcome him for his choice to do this and speak up. So he can no longer take confession, fine, but he could. I know there are other sects of Christianity that would be like, fuck yeah.
And like at the end of the day, every religion, I don't know. I just feel like the people who are like, "Oh, this is the only right way," that's just such bullshit. If you're a good person, no matter if you're religious, atheist, if you're a good person, you're gonna be rewarded for that, no matter what you like believe the reward is. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Literally, Benson's line, "Feeding the homeless is hardly a crime, no matter what you're wearing." So exactly. Do a good deed.
Yeah. Be a decent fucking person. And just don't worry about what other people are doing. That would make the world so much better of a place if we all just minded our business and tried to be nice to other people.
Honestly, that takes us, I think, into a perfect shower thought.
Oh yeah.
For our friends who listen in the shower, I had a question for you all. I thought about this. I was talking to our friend Mara, who we know enjoys us in the shower. And I asked her, but I'm going to ask all of you. Every time we do shower thoughts, I feel like we get quieter. And it occurred to me that when you're in the shower, you probably can't hear us if we get quieter because the water. Should we get louder for shower thoughts?
I have something to say. And I think it's really appropriate.
Go for it.
You're really clean and really dirty.
I mean, if that's
tagline for shower thoughts, it was just written in this episode, which is so perfect.
Good thing we didn't release Shower Thoughts merch because we should add that to it.
We're on the same wavelength right now. Okay.
So the quote again is, "You're really clean
and
really dirty."
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Which reminds us, friends, there will soon be more cool merch that we have made. Cool is not the term, but merch that we have made.
What do you mean cool is not the term?
Some of it's sure.
Okay.
Ridiculous. Yeah, if you want to buy ridiculous, cool, life-changing merch, there's a link in the description below.
Know a company that will allow us to print things on shower curtains? Let us know.
Towels.
And towels, yes.
A
special shampoo brand that we're gonna release. We're going to the lab tomorrow, and we're gonna try to find the best formula for it.
Taylor, what scent would you want our shower stuff to be?
Like, what's the correct vibe? Like something pleasant, but like with a little spice, a little kick to it. You know, because that's who we are. These reflect us.
We're pleasant with a little kick.
Yeah. Maybe we're a kick with a little pleasant.
That actually sounds so much more accurate.
Yeah.
We have no new reviews this week, which bums me out. But that's okay because we're going to keep going doing this show. So for those who didn't catch on with Pegtober, hashtag.
Say it.
No.
Say it. Yael. I'll log off right now and you by yourself if you don't say it. Hashtag what?
Get back.
Yay! Thank you so much.
I needed you not to leave.
I know. It's called threats, and they work. My friends, blackmail.
Oh, fuck. On October 1st, we'll be discussing season 4, episode 1, Chameleon. Oh, wait, that's literally hilarious. Friends, this episode, season 3, episode 23, was the season finale. I didn't realize we're doing the next episode.
We're like going in order for once in our lives. We love that.
Hilarious. And then on October 8th, season 6, episode 18, Pure, which is the Martin Short episode. Alexa in the chat suggests pina colada scent.
My Alexa just turned on. I need y'all to know when you said that. I like that actually, because it's like a little bit, I mean, it's like very breezy, but you know, there's alcohol in there. And
Pina colada has like is that Malibu rum?
Yeah.
It's like a sweet, right?
Yeah, like it goes down really easy, but then it can be a little chaotic.
That sounds right.
Yeah. That smile was like so cool. I'm so sorry, everyone. I don't know what just happened to my face. I didn't like it. It's giving the movie smile. I'm like self-conscious. Really
oh, it's time for the segment we always forget. What did we learn? I have one.
I have 3, so you start.
Oh shit. Okay. So the one that I learned was, and I forget this every time, and I hope that now I remember it forever, is an ephebophile versus a pedophile. A ephebophile is somebody who's interested in adolescents and not children. So a ephebophile versus pedophile. That was what I learned. What'd you learn?
Well, I learned 3 things, like I said. And now I forget, but whatever the Latin word was, I learned Latin word.
Peccavisti.
Peccavisti.
Yeah.
Means you have
sinned.
Yes. So I know that. I know one Latin word. I mean, I feel like I kind of knew what aversion therapy was, but like hearing Wong like explain what it was and how he like masturbated for 30 minutes past like the point of pleasure. Like that's crazy. But I learned that was how you try to treat that, which is nuts. And then the thing about yes. And then the thing about calling the bishop your grace, I thought was really fascinating too.
Yeah. Good one.
Thanks.
good ones. That's what we learned this episode. Boom.
Boom.
I'm proud of us. We came prepared.
We did. We really did.
Sometimes we remember that things are available.
Yep.
And we need to do them. But that's, I think, it for this episode. I honestly, it surprised me to think about Eric Stoltz doing this episode. But I guess, like, if you go back to old SVU, you're always surprised as to who the guest stars. You're like, wow, can't believe they would do this.
Yeah. We love the guest stars.
Yeah. Thank you to people who are live in our chat, Alexa and Doreen and Riston who are here, and anyone else who's watching live but was not chatting with us. We appreciate that you're here. We will continue Pegtober. I'm not going to say it again. October 1st with the next episode, season 4, episode 1, Chameleon. Until then, Taylor, where are you on the internet? What are you up to these days?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter/X at alphaba_Ann. I'm also on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_. And yeah, I'm writing articles and reviews for Collider. I just had one about the morning show come out, if anyone's interested in that show. And then I'm just waiting for the strike to end. But hopefully we get a fair deal soon. So yeah, hashtag get pegged.
I am Yael Tygiel. I am on Instagram at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. I'm also on Electric Now for the official after shows for Leverage Redemption, The Arc, and Almost Paradise. So check those out, and we will see you October 1st for the next episode. Bye, everybody.